What's up, world? Welcome back to another episode of the RiOT Comedy Podcast presented by RiOT. Shout out to RiOT, natural spring water, keeping us healthy and hydrated over here.
Boom.
We're back with your usual NBA news. We're going to break down what Memphis and Phoenix are about to do in the offseason. We're going to talk about torpedo bats and baseball, give our thoughts on that. If anything else pops up, we'll get into it.
Hell yeah.
So let's talk about Memphis first, man. They fired their coach out of nowhere. What seed were they when they pulled the trigger on that decision?
5?
Third? 5?
No, I think they were 5.
That's probably right, because they started to fall a little bit lately.
Well, they're 8th now. They're 8th today, I think.
Yeah, they're in trouble. They've lost 4 in a row.
But there's a half game that separates like 5 through 8.
Yeah,
So-
it's all close. It's all close. But
it's all really close.
A little losing streak right now. What was your initial thought whenever you saw they fired their coach?
You know, I the first thought that crossed my mind is it was something I wouldn't do with 17 games
Yeah.
to go. Like, I would just be
Right,
like,
no
you
doubt.
know what?
No
Like,
doubt.
he got us here. He gets us to the playoffs every year. We can revisit his job in the offseason, but I think he's done a good enough job winning games without Ja. I mean, Ja's been in the league now. I think this is his 5th year, maybe 6th. But I do know he's only played at least 65 games or more once in his career.
Right.
That means that your coach is doing a hell of a job coaching around your superstar being out. If your superstar doesn't like the coach, you have to make a decision. Traditionally, I would make my decision in favor of my superstar and fire my coach. But we would have to wait until the offseason to do it. And I do wonder what this means for Memphis moving forward. I think the whole like John Morant's going to get traded in the offseason. I think firing your coach shows that they're probably not going to trade Ja. I think it shows that they're probably going to listen to what Ja wants. But I do think that you're going to have to do a slight overhaul of your team now. And I do think that this is what consistently happens to teams, though, that consistently flirt with being good, but never actually super good. Like, we've seen Memphis have the 2 seed in the West and get bounced by the fucking 7-seeded Lakers. I think that's what their seeds were when that happened. We've seen like them like not maybe really be able to get over the hump of the Warriors. And it's because it's basically Ja take on. Like, I love Jaren Jackson Jr. and I love Desmond Bane's games, but those should be 3 and 4 options, not 2 and 3 options. People can be mad at me for saying it if they want. But this is just indicative of a really good coach basketball team of being able to win without the superstar. But yeah, that's my initial thoughts on it is just, okay, they're probably going to keep Ja since the coach is fired. And also, I do think getting rid of Ja is something that they should consider just based on health. Because this dude hasn't played more than 65 games but once. And if you're only playing, 50, 60, 70% of the games, makes it very difficult for me to build continuity. But that's my initial reactions. I don't know. I don't know if trading Ja Morant's a good idea, but I do know you'd get a fucking haul for that guy.
Yeah, I kind of had similar feelings. I mean, my first thought was just, damn, Ja must not like him. There must be tension there between those two. And I'm the same. Like, if my superstar player and my coach are not on the same page, one of them has to go. It's always going to be the coach if I got a superstar player.
I do need to know why, though, because, like, if you're Ja and you're mad about, like, you don't get as many touches as you used to, which is all the rumors, it might not be the case. Who knows? The owner might have said something to the coach and told him to shove it, but this is all just what usually happens. But from what I've been hearing through the grapevine, it's Ja's mad about touches, but it's like, well, you only play fucking 60, 50 games a season. Like, we're going to give the ball to Jaren Jackson Jr. a lot. He's the guy holding the fucking, holding everything up whenever you're out. So it's like he deserves his touches too. So it's one of those things where it's like you got to be willing, man. If we're going to be, a top 4 seeded, top 5 seed in the West consistently, and we're doing it this way, you also have to be willing to look at yourself and be like, okay, we all know whose team it is. We all know you're going to get a max contract. We all know that you're the superstar of the team. No one's going to lose sight of that. But I also feel at the same time, I always say if I was a bona fide superstar in the league, dog, I'm taking 20, 25 shots a night, no matter what. No one can, and it's not because I'm selfish, but it's because I'm better than everybody. So
fact.
I get it from both sides. I hate to be the guy who's like, well, I get it from both sides, so no full opinion on it. But at the same time, like, this is the nature of relationships and jealousy and how things and why it's so hard to be a coach of and it's like if you're a head coach of an NBA franchise and you're going into year 5, year 6 like this guy was, and you've never even been to a finals, I think it also is fair just to say he probably can't get it done and move on as well. That's kind of how I feel about it too.
They've never had a team anywhere near capable of getting to the finals.
Never overachieved though.
True.
Then that's my big thing is you've never overachieved.
I do feel you on that.
And I would say that like whenever, like, because you guys are really young, you guys have a lot of talent. Like, I think that the Grizzlies have a good enough team to go out there and do an upset in the first or second round of the playoffs and at least push for a conference finals and, look like at least look like a fake contender. Like, that's all that I'm asking is that like the Trailblazers with Dame, they overachieved all the time.
Yeah.
I've seen the Houston Rockets overachieve with James Harden. I've seen so many teams overachieve where it's like the Memphis Grizzlies don't even look like whenever they're playing a team equally as good as them or maybe slightly better than them that they ever have control of a playoff series. So that's kind of where the separation. I've seen Doc Rivers overachieve. So like at the same time, we need to really kind of look at what this coach is doing and, maybe he would do better with a different team. We've seen Mike Budenholzer win a championship too. And we've also seen Mike Budenholzer do arguably the worst coaching job in NBA history this year with the Phoenix Suns.
I don't blame him. Like when Phoenix acquired this roster, I know like as soon as they got Bradley Beal, everyone was like, "Oh my God, Phoenix is gonna be so good." Everyone was saying it. I never got tricked into thinking that shit. I told everyone they was gonna suck. They got no leaders, they got no depth, they got no bench whatsoever. You're in a terrible situation as a coach. You got three dudes who are all ball dominant players. The only one who's great at playing off the ball is Durant, and then you got Beal and Booker out there.
There's
That's
no
a trash
energy.
ass team, dog.
There's no energy though. There's no energy whatsoever. Your team's good enough to make the fucking play-in. Without question, your team is good enough to be a top 10
Your team is
seed.
definitely good enough to make the play-in, but your team sucks. Your team
Out
sucks
of 15, out of 15 teams, you're not a top 10er. Like, that's my thing. There's no energy. Like, Kevin Durant and Mike Budenholzer can play off the getting into it with them on the sidelines all they want. This is what it's all about, being a team. You should be able to get in people's asses. You guys can say whatever you want about that situation, and maybe you guys are right. But from an outsider looking in, it's a bad look, dog. And, like, it's all about not having bad looks, man. Like, people can say, like, oh, that's not actually what it is. Public perception means a lot, dog. And when public perception starts to seep into the locker rooms and all these things, you can't say that. I don't know. I just think Mike Budenholzer did a bad job. I think he
on some real shit though. Like, who's the best player on Phoenix?
Kevin Durant.
You got a year 18 Kevin Durant. A player in year 18 is your best player on your team. You fucking suck, dog. Your team is trash.
Do you feel confident that if you had a decent coach over there, that they could possibly have a better record than the Sacramento Kings, though? Like, nobody's asking you guys to even win a playoff series, but you can't even make a fucking playoff push?
The thing is like
they've been losing games constantly lately too. That
no matter who their coach is, no matter who coaches the Phoenix Suns, I wouldn't be surprised if they finished 13th.
I would be
no matter
shocked.
Who their coach is. They don't have a roster that is capable of winning games together.
You have a roster.
Bradley Beal has never won anything at all ever. This dude won fucking 8 games a year in Washington.
You're wrong.
Career. Devin Booker never won anything without Chris Paul. The Phoenix Suns were trash every year during Devin Booker's first 6 years. Chris Paul shows up, they're good. Chris Paul leaves, they're trash.
You have two guys on your team that can give you 25 points any given night. There are no excuses. Be a top fucking 10 team in the Western Conference. There are no excuses.
Points don't mean W's all the time.
They do in the beginning of the season. You guys should have been able to get to a top 5 seed in the first 30 games and rode out at 500 and made the playoffs. No question. No question. There is no excuse. Me and you have talked about it before that if you have they have 2 all-stars on their team, 2 all-star caliber players. We all know that Kevin Durant and Devin Booker are all-star caliber players.
They should be better than they are.
That's all I'm saying. I'm saying,
but I don't think anyone should be surprised or even mad at the coach or anybody. If anyone should be mad at your GM for putting together a piss poor roster.
I understand that, but if you can't go 41-41 with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker on your team, you have no business being a head coach in the NBA ever again. Plain and simple.
If you put together a roster with guys who can score and you have no leader on your team is trash.
Then you have to be one or assign it to a bench player. You have to know how to make these guys gel together.
You can't just be a leader out of nowhere whenever you've never been.
No, but what I'm saying is like you have to just like as the coach, then you have to step up and be more of a leader, and you have to fucking get some guys on the bench to be dogs and go out there and show some fucking fight. I mean, for the love of God. For the love of God, you guys don't even put your dukes up anymore. They're just out there getting haymakered by Mike Tyson and won't go down. Like what are you doing though?
Okay.
That's the biggest thing. There is no effort.
their best player, Kevin Durant, is a guy who went to the Warriors after they beat him and he blew a 3-1 lead. So that's their best player. Their second best player is a guy who we have on video getting mad about being double teamed during an open gym 5-on-5 run. Those are your two best players, and you think you're going to get any leadership out of any of them?
I didn't say to get leadership out of those guys. What I'm saying is that we're going to have to drop this subject because you're never going to convince me that if you're a head coach in the NBA and you have Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, that you shouldn't be able to be a top 10 team out of 15. There is no excuse. You fucking suck.
Here's the thing. I'm a Devin Booker hater. I think this dude is the most overrated player in the history of the NBA. The most
Me
overrated player
too.
I've ever seen by far. So if Devin Booker and year 18 Kevin Durant are your best players and you have no one else good on your team, I would expect you to finish in the bottom 5 or 6 teams of the conference.
Here's what I would say is that the Atlanta Hawks have a pretty similar record to the Phoenix Suns with an awful basketball team, god awful dookie streaks, and nobody's saying that the Phoenix Suns don't fucking suck. But all I'm gonna leave it at is, if you're Mike Budenholzer, this is the worst head coaching job arguably in NBA history, and you should be ashamed in yourself for not being able to possibly win 40 games with Kevin Durant. Even in your team, you have two guys. You have two guys. You have two guys on your team that I guarantee you this year combined are averaging pushing 50 points a game. You should be able to get bench players to go in there and play hard and play defense and win 40 fucking games out of 82. Like, that's embarrassing. It's a joke. Even if he hits 40 wins, it's a joke. I don't care what anybody says. The NBA, nobody even starts trying in the NBA until you get to 30 games left in the season, which means you should have been able to scoop up in the first 50 games of the season. You should have been able to scoop up 30 wins just simply from trying kind of hard. That's it. Like, look at the Houston Rockets. They have a young, talented team, but they're probably going to be the 2 seed because they try hard. If you can't get your players to try hard, you're a joke. And nobody's played hard for Mike Budenholzer for 5 years.
Houston has dudes. That's a fair point about playing hard.
They don't play hard.
Argue that too much. But Houston has guys that naturally are going to play hard no matter where they are.
I agree. But you're telling me that, like, you got Royce O'Neal and Grayson Allen and, like, you got Nurkic out there, which he doesn't get to play anymore. Like, you can't get these guys to go out there and hard foul people and get a little bit of fucking steam in the arena and get a little bit of effort going out there and piss people off so that they try hard. Like, you can't even get motherfuckers to do that. You're a joke. You're an asshole. And you shouldn't be a head coach of an NBA franchise ever again.
You
and
have
I've never
to have you have to have a real leader on the floor, no matter what. You're going nowhere without one. It don't matter how much talent you have. If you ain't got a leader on the floor playing basketball, your head coach doesn't matter. And they don't have one in Phoenix.
Nobody's asking you to get anywhere. I'm just asking you not to break the car down in the fucking driveway before you even leave. Nobody's asking you to get somewhere. You couldn't even go.
No,
you couldn't even pack the fucking car up.
But who on Phoenix, put the coach aside, who on Phoenix, who on their roster has what it takes, who has the fortitude, who has the gall to go out there and set an example on the floor? By being a dog, by doing the hustle plays, by doing the dirty work. Who has that? No matter who's coaching, you can handpick your coach from across the league. Who on Phoenix is capable of that?
Royce O'Neal is more than capable of being a dog. Grayson Allen is more than... I used to see Grayson Allen hit people in the dick every week in the NBA. Bring it back. Like, I don't give a shit, dude. There has to be effort. There is no excuse for effort. You can argue till you're blue in the face, but we all know that there's 10 head coaches in the NBA right now that if you put them on the Phoenix Suns, minimum 10, that these motherfuckers are going to play 500 basketball. We're asking for 500 ball here. We're asking for we're asking for mediocrity at the ceiling. Nobody's asking for them to even win a playoff series.
See, I had such low expectations for Phoenix. None of this is surprising to me.
But this is the same team that they had last year, right? Or am I tripping? This isn't Bradley Beal's first year there.
Correct.
So what I'm saying is they went to the playoffs last year with Frank Vogel. Frank Vogel got him to play defense. Frank Vogel got him to fucking win games.
That's fair. That's fair.
This team's no different, except for Nurkic, except for everybody's a year older. But I'm here to tell you right now, that doesn't mean that these guys all of a sudden got dick sucky. Like, Mike Budenholzer, terrible job. And like there's no defending it. If I want to come out here and say that Phoenix should be a championship contender or at least be a Western Conference contender, then you have every right to berate me and actually disown me as a sibling and be like, I don't fuck with Devin no more because he's gone full fucking retard and there's no trusting
My
what he
thing is,
has to say
I'm
anymore.
I'm not even like defending Budenholzer. That's not even what it's about for me. This is a
I'm asking
trash
for a
ass
play-in.
team, and
I'm asking to
like
go to the play-in.
I didn't expect anything out of Phoenix this year.
The Dallas Mavericks look like a better basketball team right now without Kyrie Irving than the Phoenix Suns have basically looked all season. And that's from having a good coach. So like, and don't tell me these rosters are better. Don't tell me that all of a sudden Anthony Davis has turned into this immaculate leader who is very vocal and fucking takes charge. Not saying that he hasn't. I'm just saying like we haven't generally seen that in his career, it seems like. So like, and it's because from the head down, it's because Jason Kidd like demands excellence. Mike Budenholzer just gets pushed around by his superstars.
Jason Kidd is a good
They poke
coach,
him.
and he's better than Budenholzer. But I think I don't know, man. Phoenix is like it's just a bad franchise. Like, and when you have a bad franchise that puts together a bad roster, let's be real. Phoenix, it doesn't matter what they do, they're not going to win a championship. They're not one of those teams that's going to win. They're just a team that is like really good sometimes, and then sometimes they're just like in the middle of shit, and they're just there. They just exist. So they're like the Timberwolves, kind of. Um, so it's like you got a bad franchise, you got bad owners, you got a okay coach and a trash roster. So I expected them to be this bad, and I don't think like Budenholzer. Yeah, he gets some of the blame. He's the coach. Like when you're the coach, you get some of the blame regardless. But I
If
mean,
I
they got a
told
bad
you when the
roster.
season started, I bet you $500 that the Phoenix Suns will miss the play-in tournament because they'll be so dick sucky. Most people, including yourself, I would like to think would be like, I'll take that action because I think that I can name 5 Western Conference teams that are gonna be worse.
No, ain't no way. Because now, granted, did I expect them to make the play in? Yes, but I wouldn't.
If so.
If anyone else would have told me Phoenix is gonna miss the play and they're gonna suck. They're gonna be one of the 5 worst teams in the West. I'd be like, you might be right. We'll see how this goes.
I'd be shocked.
I ain't gonna argue that shit.
I'd be shocked. Like it would have shocked me just because like I ain't ever seen Kevin Durant be on a basketball team and then fucking just play below 500 basketball and suck dick. Like that's not really a thing that you see whenever he plays a decent chunk of the season. Like he seems to win games at a decent clip. And I mean,
Well,
honestly,
they
I
sucked
thought
last year, and I
I
expected them
thought
to
the
be
Phoenix Suns.
significantly worse this year.
And another reason why I thought the Phoenix Suns could at least play 500 basketball is because like nobody in the league takes them serious. They're not getting people's best night every night. No way. No way people are like, we got
For
to
sure,
fucking go to
for
bed
sure.
early tonight because we got Devin Booker tomorrow. Like that's not a thing.
Phoenix also knows they suck, and when you know you suck, it is really tough
I
to
know
go
it's
out
just one of those
there.
things where it's just like I just can't let Budenholzer slide, dog. It's the worst job, especially when I just saw Frank Vogel do a way better job. And like now that like, and we're starting to put championships too much on coaches' resumes to an extent because teams get new coaches every 2 or 3 years, fucking anyways, dog. And like Mike
Hmm.
Budenholzer, in my personal opinion, and I could be wrong about this, might have to go back and look at some tape. But I've never really seen him just go out there and just like super out coach anybody and fucking just we're so good. Like he seems like the kind of guy who can't make adjustments whenever his original scheme doesn't work. It fucking falls apart. That's what it kind of looks like
Hmm.
to me. You sound like an assistant coach,
The thing
and
is like you're super right about that. Except he had a couple years in Atlanta where everyone was like, "Damn, this guy can fucking coach,"
had
and then he gets
constant.
hired in Milwaukee,
But
has
he
a good
had,
year.
but he had all the professionals. And like you obviously don't know how to control a locker room at all, unless the players control it for you. Like you have no ability whatsoever.
Okay. So real quick, you just said, but he had all the professionals. So when he has a capable roster, he gets no credit. But when he has an incapable roster, he gets all. He gets.
No, no. No, Mike Budenholzer deserves credit. Like when I say that he had consummate professionals, it's much easier to coach a basketball team though when everybody is like goal is to do this. It's really what separates okay coaches from even great coaches is that like whenever things aren't going quite right, the whole fucking ship doesn't come crawling apart because I had no bolts in it. I don't have any bolts in this because when the bolts start to fly out, my bolts don't hold this shit together. Tron Lue would never let this shit happen. Tron Lue would never let any of these things happen to these teams.
Hey,
Never
dog.
one time.
Phoenix would suck ass with Teron Lue, and I'm a huge Teron Lue fan. They would suck ass. They would suck ass.
They're playing 500 basketball with Tyronn Lue. He would scheme it good enough because if the first scheme didn't work for Tyronn Lue, he'd make another one. You know, you've never heard from a Mike Budenholzer team.
They would be
Man,
better. They would be better.
I really like Bud's new scheme. I really like it. You ain't never heard that. You never heard Bud be like, "We're gonna flip the fucking script on this." The only thing Bud's ever said is, "We got to execute my plan a little bit better." Boy, if we executed just a little bit better, I put the players in the same place I always put them. Well, how do you think they would do in a different system? Don't know. Not gonna try it. Like, that's what I would say about Bud, dog. And like, I'm not trying to take his credit away from Atlanta. Nobody's trying to take a credit away. But like, I also don't sit over here and suck Quinn Snyder's dick for his job in Utah either. Whenever he had like fucking Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell and fucking Joe Ingles and Royce O'Neal and Rudy Gobert, all guys that like know the deal. We know the deal. We're here. We're a team. We're trying to win. All those things. Mm-hmm. You know, like Quinn Snyder deserves more of credit for what he's done with the Atlanta Hawks since he got there than maybe what he did for Utah. So
Quinn Snyder's a good ass coach, man.
So far, you know, I like what I see in Atlanta. I think Atlanta's playing harder than they were playing. I like what he's been doing down there. I think the fact that they're even making the play in this year is fucking crazy. But like
that's the thing with Snyder, man, is he's like the best team he ever had was like
Donovan Mitchell, Mike Conley. Yeah, Utah for sure. Right. I mean, that's really the only place he ever coached as a head coach, and he was there for a while. But it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, Bud, you have a championship and shit, dog. But like, and I give you credit, man. Like, you're a better head coach than some that I've seen in the league, no question.
Let's be real about the 2021 championship. That is the championship that everyone wants to pretend the 2020 championship was. The 2021 championship, and I'm basing this off of what players say. Like, my opinion, I don't really think it carries too much weight because the players say the bubble championship was the hardest, and they say the next championship was the easiest because everyone was injured. Like, all the teams who went far in the 2020 bubble were all injured the next year. Miami was injured. Not Phoenix, but Miami, the Lakers. I don't remember who else because it's been half a decade now. But all the players are like, that was the championship. That was the fluke championship, was the one after the bubble because they started the season so much sooner. So all those teams who either missed the playoffs or didn't make it far, they all had a huge advantage going into the next season.
For sure. And I don't know, man. Like,
and there's a reason that neither one of those teams ever sniffed Phoenix and Milwaukee made the finals in 2021. They never even sniffed it again.
Well, I think something we can't agree on if you're the Phoenix Suns is you need to test the market for Devin Booker. You need to test that market. I think somebody would overpay for him, like wildly overpay for him.
For sure.
And you know, you
better trade him soon before everyone realizes, like I realized a long time ago, that he ain't that dude.
No,
you better get rid of this motherfucker quick.
I mean, between Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, you probably get like 8 first-round picks, then you can just keep Bradley Beal because he's going to make you suck worse, so you can lose more games and get more first-round picks and shit. Right. Actually, there's no way Phoenix owns any of their picks for the next decade, probably, because they fucking have Bradley Beal. And
they got a restock for sure.
But like that would restock the war chest at least, and then at least you can start building towards something, man. Like, and at least like Bradley Beal, like just tell him like we're not gonna trade you if you don't want to. Like, just be a professional and show my young guys how to fucking navigate the league, please, and you'll keep getting your checks. So that's what they.
I agree with all that. Since we're talking about, where this has been talking about coaches heavy podcast, I want to jump to Houston.
We interrupt today's podcast to bring you Shmoney's Money Lines, the only place where you get Shmoney's Money Lines. Right here on the RiOT Comedy Podcast, presented to you by my bookie. Let's get into it. So, World Series coming right around the corner in about 8-9 months, but I think now's the good time to make the pick, Ichi. That's how I feel. I'm feeling frisky, and I'm feeling some odds. Okay. Hold on, my glasses are thick. You see them eyebrows? That means cha-ching! The line that I like...
What are we whacking with?
The line that I like, me personally, is... the Cleveland Guardians. Some of you might know them as the Cleveland Indians, but they are the Cleveland Guardians, baby. They're plus 4,100. I think this is going to be the year they get over the hump. I like what they've been doing the last 4 years, and I think that this is the year. And I really like the odds because, I'm never a guy who's going to bet 100 to win 2. That's just me personally. And this is presented to you again by my bookie. The only place not the only place, but a few places that let you cash out on a parlay early. They also let you do just one bet. You don't have to do parlays with them. If you just like one thing, like the Cleveland Guardians, to go ahead and win that World Series, I'm going to say, I want to just do that. And they're going to say, gotcha. That's what I love about my bookie. And what's the best thing about my bookie, you might be asking yourself? Code RiOT. Code RiOT gets you a deposit match. Not only does Code RiOT get you a deposit match, but it also makes you look cool because you're using Code RiOT. Now, I would say read the disclaimer below, and most importantly, stay funky fresh out there, folks. That's Shmoney's Money Lines.
Let's go ahead and talk about Ime Udoka because I saw this stat today. I didn't verify, but I saw it a couple places, and I sent it to you in a group chat earlier. So since Ime Udoka has taken over the Rockets, they lead the NBA in ejections, player techs, coach techs, and disqualifications.
And
What
fourth
the
and
hell is a
fouls.
disqualification? Yeah, and they're fourth in personal fouls. What's a disqualification in NBA basketball?
I don't even know what that even
I don't know what
means.
see. That was the thing that made me was like, is this stat made up? But the rest of that, like ejections and player technicals and coach technicals, I could definitely see those being true. Also, big fan of it.
Oh,
I know you're a
yeah.
big Ime Udoka fan. We're big
Oh,
Udoka
yeah.
fans over here. Uh, that dude's a hell of a coach, man. And the way, like we were talking earlier, Houston, the way they play, they play above their talent level every damn night, man. Because
They're
these
like the
dudes are out
Grizzlies.
here.
Like
They're like the Grizzlies, man. These dudes
from back in
play
the
hard.
day.
They're pests. Yeah, yeah.
They're
The
grit and
Zebo
grind.
Grizzlies.
Yeah,
The
they're
grit
grit
and
and grind.
grind Grizzlies with Zebo and them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean these dudes are hustling after rebounds. They box out. They're pests. There's serious effort on defense. Um, we're big Dylan Brooks fans over here too.
Fuck yeah,
Uh,
dude.
you know,
This is see.
I know he's like a corny goon sometimes, but this dude is entertaining as hell, and we love watching dudes like that. Uh,
I mean, this is kind of what I would say.
who bring the nonsense to the game, but it's like a necessary nonsense, you know?
For like, and kudos for Houston for like putting people in place that make sense, like going to get Uncle Jeff a couple years ago with the young dudes, like Jeff Green a couple years
Yeah,
ago, and
good
you got
veteran to
Fred
throw
Van
in there with
Vliet.
them dudes.
You got Dylan Brooks. You overpaid for Dylan Brooks and Fred Van Vliet, which makes sense now. I think a lot of people were like, "Why would you do that?" But I think you got to have like a Dylan Brooks on your team, anyways. That Draymond Green type of player, I think it increases your chance of winning championships drastically. And this is what I was saying about Phoenix, and give Ime some credit. Which, granted, I think the personnel makes it easier for Ime, but like it goes to show that if you have just a little bit of offensive talent on your team, if you actually fucking try in the NBA, you can win games. Like if you actually box out, and because nobody boxes out anymore, so it gives you a huge advantage. Nobody really picks up full
Nah, no
court.
one
Nobody
boxes
dives
out,
for
man.
loose balls.
Never.
Like that's the
Mm-mm.
thing is if you actually fucking try all 82 games, like you'll win 50 of these motherfuckers, dog.
Every
Like
fucking season.
if you have like some talent on your team, I should say.
If you have a couple guys who can get you some buckets,
And I mean, even like
what's Jalen Green averaging? Is he getting 25 a game this year?
I think
Is
it's
he up
probably
to that
like
much yet?
23. I'm not sure, but I'm talking about like even
23.
if you have guys as like imagine if you have prime CJ McCollum and prime LaMarcus Aldridge on your team, which are like two fringe all-star caliber players who are both pretty good. But you surround those guys with really good defenders, and these five guys try as hard as they can every play for 82 games. Like that team can win 50 fucking games with LaMarcus Aldridge and
Absolutely.
CJ McCollum.
Absolutely.
And like that's throwing some kudos. Like both y'all are 20-point a night scorers in your heyday, and both could hoop pretty heavy, dog. Like
Absolutely.
but CJ's never made an all-star team.
That's not a team that you think of as like a contender, and they're not a serious contender, but they still make noise, and they're good enough to like you said, they'll win 50 games if you
They'll win
got
50
five dudes every
games.
night putting forth the effort.
I mean, I watched Dirk
Absolutely.
Nowitzki, which I know he's an all-time great, but like I watched this dude win 50 games consistently with like older stars. Like Dallas was
Yeah.
never out here getting cats in their prime.
No, never. They was always
Ever.
playing cheap and never putting a good roster, like a really, really good roster together
Right.
every year. They wasn't out
Correct.
here being aggressive and active like that.
So that's what I would say is like I love what Ime Udoka does. I've been a fan of his though. I was even the guy that was like, if I'm Boston, like this guy's probably gonna have to get over it. Like, don't marry a slut. I don't know what to tell you. Either don't marry a slut or don't treat your wife like shit. One of the two. That probably one of those two is the case. So like, she out of your league and you were rich when you met her. Well, she might fuck handsome black dudes. You know what I mean? Like that's
Hey man,
Hey,
if you're gonna work in the NBA, you better be fucking tight if you're gonna bring your wife around
fuck yeah.
fucking 6'8" fucking freak athletes and shit.
Ime Udoka's fucking
Better,
fiance was Nia Long. So he's got pipe and he's got game. Like
no
a
doubt, dog.
motherfucker.
No
Let
doubt.
me
You
tell
don't
you
bring your
right
wife
now,
around that
dog, like
fucking dude if you
I'm a
ain't fucking
happily
tight.
married man. I'm a happily married man, but the only person of any consequence my wife ever turned down for me was David Blaine at an airport. She turned down David Blaine in an airport once for me. Like, and I didn't like my chances with that. And that dude's a fucking magician.
Right,
Like,
right,
I
right.
ain't like,
You gonna bring your wife around some fucking NBA players? I don't think so, dog.
no, no,
Hell
my wife's
nah.
hot, dude, and they can give her a way better life than me. So like, be
Yeah,
careful out here,
yeah.
motherfucker. So you know,
It's funny because I won't say where we got invited, but me and our other brother, so me and Dylan got invited to this party one time. Uh, Former NBA player,
I already know who it
and
is. I bet I'm not gonna say it, but
yeah,
I bet
yeah,
you
for
know who it
sure,
is.
yeah, yeah. And he's talking about bringing this girl and this and that. I was like, you a fucking idiot if you bring your girl to that party, dog. I said there's gonna be fucking bunch of fucking former NBA players, and the reputation NBA players already have when it comes to women and shit. Hell
Dog,
fucking nah, I ain't bringing my girl.
you gotta test it.
Nah, nah, that's you fucking that's pissing in the ocean when you swimming with sharks, dog. That's cutting a fucking wound in yourself whenever you swimming with
You
sharks,
gotta
dog. What are you
know.
doing?
You gotta know. You can't just be like, man, I sure hope I don't bump into any ex NBA players while me and my wife and kid are walking around. Like, you gotta test them, dog. You gotta, to me, like, lead the lamb to slaughter and see what happens, dog. See if that bitch
It's
fights her way
different when
out
you
of there.
walk around. It's different what you said, like when you're walking around with your wife and kid. Like it's different with the family, but when you're in a party setting, you and your girl, hell nah. Because if we
Be
get
interesting.
separated for 1 minute, some dude's gonna be macking on you, and I ain't fucking having that.
I don't know. I'm interested. I'm interested. Let's see what happens. Let's see what these motherfuckers' game's about, and like, let's see how tight I am. There's a chance that my dick's been just good enough, and I've made just enough money, and my wife loves me just enough to where shit don't matter, to where shit's just okay, dog. I think you gotta risk it, dog. Like me personally, I got pretty high like self esteem, probably like to a
Nah,
detriment.
and I do too. And you know what?
I
I'd
know what
say
you
like
mean.
I'm single right now, and pretty much all the girls that I've dated, especially since I've been older, like I trusted them all to be in that situation. But I still don't want to deal with it though.
Nah, nah.
I
And
ain't
there's
trying
a
to deal
pretty
with
good
that shit
chance.
because
And
I'm gonna have a less good time dealing with all the bullshit that comes with that.
and for me, like I'm 5'6", dog. Like pretty good chance I can't whoop nobody. Like no athletes. Like no athletes. I kick your ass. None.
Me neither, dog.
None.
I'm average height. I'm 5'10". I ain't taking my chances against not one NBA player, not none
No
of them.
way. No fucking way. But anyways,
I ain't that fucking cool.
we're running long. We need a little bit of positivity. I've been seeing a lot of things, I'd say this all the time, but a lot of shitting on motherfuckers, dog. A lot of disrespect. So do you have anybody you want to shout out or you want me to go first?
I'll let you go first.
Um, I'm gonna shout out. What's funny is like we always go into this and like we know we're gonna do it on the podcast, but I don't even think about it till it comes up because I'm a man.
Yeah, yeah, same.
So I'm a man, so I'm just like I'll handle it whenever we come to it. Somebody I would like to shout out is actually, you know what? I'm gonna shout out Anthony Davis, dog. This dude's been balling since he got back in Dallas. I think they're like 3
Yeah,
or 4-0 since this dude got back, and I'm glad that he got to come back and show off a little bit, and that way, like everybody can just tone down a little bit and realize that he is he's a top 75 player of all time for a reason because AD's
yeah,
an absolute fucking baller. So I'm glad he's back and I'm glad he's
absolutely.
balling. And I'm glad Dallas can kind of look at that and be like, well, at least Nico's not a complete and total fucking idiot, even though he's pretty much is. At least you got a little
Yeah,
something, something. At least you got a
yeah.
little something, something to cheer y'all up. So, and then who you shouting out?
Speaking of Nico, though, I will say, and I think we talked about this on a podcast before, is that like at least out of all the superstars we've ever seen get traded, Nico got the best return we've ever seen by far.
Yes. I don't know, man.
By far.
I don't know. Maybe in the moment when you start looking at some future shit, dog.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't consider like you selecting your draft pick as like part of that return. Like who that draft pick becomes, I don't see that necessarily as part of the return because that's like some,
OKC got Shea for Paul George.
and that's a
I'm just
that's a
saying.
good
And
return.
that at the
You
time, like even like at the time though, because people can sit there and say like, well, at the time you had Kawhi, like you have to go get Paul George, and I'm not mad at that. But I will say this though, is that Shea didn't come out of nowhere. Ever since
No,
Shea was a
absolutely,
rookie for
absolutely.
the Clippers,
We
we've
knew
been
he was
like,
going to be a baller.
this
We
this
knew he was going
dude's
to be a hooper.
this dude's showing
He's
some shit, and by like in a
absolutely.
couple years with the Clippers, we were all like, this dude's getting pretty fucking good now. Like nobody, me personally, I'm a pretty good evaluator of talent. I didn't think he'd be able to get 32 a game and win an MVP, but
Yeah.
I did know that when OKC pulled that off, I was like, that's a good player to get. That's a good
No
player to
doubt.
get.
No
But I
doubt.
thought maybe he'd be a really good 2 option on a championship team. I didn't know that he would be an MVP, but that was a great fucking trade too. But who are you shouting out for positivity? Positive.
Positivity.
Positivity.
I gotta let me see. I want to give a shout out to Dylan Brooks, man, because we were talking about him earlier, and I just like love watching this dude play. So a couple
He
days ago,
violated
when
LeBron.
I know, I was like, man, it kind of put me in a position. I was like, I don't know if I like this dude
I loved it.
for this,
I've
but then
done I've done similar things.
I was like, I don't know, man. I kind of like I like that he just pokes the bear and he just don't give a fuck what no one thinks about him or how he plays or the antics that he does, and he's always just like, fuck everyone. I'm here to just bother people and be a pest and be an asshole. And it's like you either with me or against me, and if you against me, then fuck you, and I don't give
Well,
a damn. And I love what he brought to Houston, man. Houston's been like a fun team to watch. I wish I would have like had more time to watch them this year because I only really watched them like play like a whole game like once, and then I was just like tuning in sometimes here and there.
yeah. Well, I
But
think there's a
I like
misconception
their game over there.
about players like Dylan Brooks and stuff, right? Because I think people always say this thing about them. They're like, well, they only do that because they're not actually fucking good enough to play. And it's like,
Hmm.
they know. They know. They
Right,
know. Like Patrick Beverly
right,
knows that
right.
like this is the only way that I'm gonna be able to make an NBA court and
Yeah,
make my career last is to be a
absolutely.
fucking piece of shit. So like they know
Hmm.
everybody. They don't care you think they're a piece of shit. They're rich as
Right,
fuck. And like
right.
I'm like not only that with Dylan Brooks, but like okay, so I'm 5'6", and I played a lot of basketball in my life. I was decent, never great. Not gonna sit here and toot my own horn for anything other than I was a fucking piece of shit too. Like I would fucking grab people's
I
asses
was
and
too.
put fingers
I
in.
was
I'd
too.
stick my thumb in somebody's butt who tried to post me up and fuck them all up and fucking whip,
I didn't never do that, but I was
blowing people's ears and fucking all kinds of shit because it's hilarious and it's hilarious, dog. Like I've
it is hilarious.
like the Andrew Schultz fucking thing to Kendrick Lamar. Like I've threatened that on a basketball court for sure. Like I've said the Mike Tyson
Hmm.
line to somebody on a basketball court too, dog. I'll fuck you in the ass until you love me, F word. Like I've done it all, and you know you shouldn't, but like it's hilarious, dog. I'm like Kevin Garnett. There is nothing off limits when you're on a court together because it's fucking super funny.
That's
We
how
don't even actually
I agree.
we don't know each other, and like who
I
cares?
agree.
Who fucking cares? We're at war.
I was short as hell too. Like I didn't become average height until like my senior year of high school. I was like the shortest dude on the team every year, and yeah, I had to be a pest and get my white guy try too hard on and bother
Hell
people
yeah.
and do
And
this
not
and
only
that
that, dog, but like I would do so many terrible, terrible things in an NBA to make Dylan Brooks money. Dog, I get thrown out every game if I have to. Like whatever you guys need from me.
yeah,
Whatever I'll take
absolutely,
knees
absolutely.
out. I'll
I'm here
fucking
for it.
hurt players on
And
purpose.
as a spectator, I'm here for the drama and the entertainment. I'm here for all of it.
And we need it. And we need it.
Yeah,
But
absolutely,
anywho,
absolutely.
shout out Dylan Brooks. We don't actually think you're a queef like we said in our fucking show. Shout out Dylan Brooks, dog. We fucks with you heavy, dog. We actually like you a ton. You should do the podcast so we can fucking crack jokes about all these things that you do because god damn it's ridiculous. So future project, I am going to try to get Dylan Brooks on the podcast now that we mention it, even though nobody ever does the podcast. But we never really ask because we just assume they don't want to because we're pieces of shits. But let's try it. Let's try to get some people
Hey,
on.
I think we vibe with Dylan Brooks as far as like being assholes. I think he might be down to do
100%.
it.
100%, dog. 100 fucking percent. So he is Canadian though. So, you know, relations aren't great right now, apparently, between the two nations. So we'll see, you know. Maybe we could be the diplomats to fucking get this shit squared away. Us and Dylan Brooks.
We could.
I'll call Trump. I got his number. I'll call him up. Hilarious.
We didn't get a chance to touch on the torpedo bats. We'll squeeze it into the next podcast. But we appreciate y'all rocking with us. Y'all have a great
Runs.
weekend.
Deuces.
Stay up.